Welcome to the Media Box. Damien Cottier, Committee Chair for Legal Affairs and Human Rights. I wanted to ask you about the latest developments as regards Russia and Ukraine, escalation and referenda.
The escalation of the conflict is absolutely unacceptable. This targeting of civilian populations that we saw earlier this week is really a big worry, and it's a grave violation of international human rights law and international humanitarian law. So we really call Russian government and military authorities to cease this kind of behavior, because they have to respect the law. They signed the treaties. It is also binding international law, so they have to respect the law and cease targeting civilian population immediately.
What about the referenda in eastern Ukraine?
The referenda is absolutely illegal, and it cannot be recognized because it is a war of aggression, and these parts of territory has been so-called annexed absolutely illegally. It's contrary to the Charter of the United Nations, to the Final Act of Helsinki, to several other international obligations, and it cannot be accepted that a referendum comes then. And I have to add to that the referendum is not organized in a proper way. There are standards defined by the Venice Commission of the Council of Europe, how you organize a referendum, in which context, to make sure that the will of the population can be expressed freely. And these conditions were not at all present, so nobody can recognize this referendum.
What mechanisms are in place to ensure that Russia is eventually held to account?
Well, there has to be a lot of diplomatic activities, and I know that there are. I hope there are these discussions. And the role of the Council of Europe and the Assembly is also to recall the international obligations of all the parties to war, to respect. There are rules of war, and they are internationally binding, and all people and countries involved in war should respect them. And our role here is to recall that. What we are doing too in the Legal Affairs Committee and in the Assembly, with the support now also of the Committee of Ministers, is working on a possible international tribunal on the crime of aggression, because we have two elements. There are a lot of crime of war and possible crimes against humanity, and then the International Criminal Court and the judicial authorities of Ukraine can and will act. But the crime of aggression is something separate. It's not covered by the statutes of Rome, and there we should definitely create an international tribunal for that, because you cannot have the highest responsible for starting this war not being judged. We cannot have impunity. Actually, it is the gravest of all crimes, because this decision to start a war, which is illegal, it is what made possible all the other crimes. The crimes of war wouldn't have taken place if the war wouldn't have started. So it's very important to also have a judicial authority being able to decide on that, and that's what we are working on.
Damien Cottier, thank you very much.
Thank you.